Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with astrologer Shelley Overton. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. With me, Shelley Overton. I am an astrologer in Orlando, Florida, and I'm back. So I was gone for 2 straight weeks from the 16th of September through the 30th. It got extended because a little surprise hurricane happened, and I'll tell you why I didn't mention that. I have stopped kind of looking into a lot of natural disasters because they get depressing, and I'm really trying to focus a bit more on positivity. Now, that being said, I am an astrologer, and honestly, I think some of these natural events do go with the territory of what you would discuss. So I'm going to probably touch on it today, and we'll talk about what we can expect with Pluto going direct this weekend. What else? Oh yeah, I decided I wanted to wear earrings that I made for sale. I was sitting here at my desk. I've got earrings that you can't even see them. Earrings that I create, many earrings. I have more than I even put up, and I really need to post those on social media and Etsy. But they were so cute. I was like, these are so cute. I really like them, so I'm just going to take them. Anyway, you can find those if you want under shelleyoverton.com, which is my little website. And what else? Let's see. Oh, yeah. So I was gone for 2 weeks. This is just a little housekeeping. I was gone for 2 weeks, so I pre-recorded the podcast that you've been watching for the last 3 times. And now I'm back. Today is actually October 6th, which is an auspicious day in my world because 60 years ago today, my parents got married. And so I want to wish them happy anniversary, happy 60th anniversary. A very rare number these days indeed, but they're pretty amazing. I kind of attribute the longevity of their marriage to the fact that my dad gives in a lot. He gives in a lot. And my mom is a very strong matriarchal type Cancer. And so he's found a long time ago, happy wife, happy life. And so, yeah, I'm pretty proud that they've managed to stick it out this long, and they still like each other, pretty much still like each other. So anyway, maybe his failing hearing has something to do with it. Who knows? Anyway, we're going to get going on our readings, and let me clear my throat real quick, and we'll be right back. There we go. So looking at our lovely chart today, I noticed that actually, let's just reverse it so that people say, why are you staring at the ceiling? I'm not staring at the ceiling, staring at a chart on my very enormous screen, which is basically a big screen TV about 2 feet from my face. So it's quite high to look at. Anyway, let's see, does that work? Yeah, that works. So we're just going to continue on with this. Okay, so the thing that I noticed out of the gate on this chart, and you may as well if you look at it, is there are 2, maybe 3 grand trines. Pluto to Uranus North Node and Mercury. And the other one is Sun, Venus in Libra to Saturn in Aquarius and Mars in early degrees of Cancer. The heck, it's not even early degrees. What is Mars in? I swear my brain. Okay, 21 Gemini. I don't know why that did not register. So Saturn in Aquarius to Mars in Gemini and Venus and the Sun in Libra. So that one is an air grand trine, which means we are up in our minds. We are maybe a little bit more intense mentally right now. And that is because Venus, the goddess of love, is analyzing and very analytical about what she wants, what her desires are, where she's going with romance, what she needs out of partnership, how we can balance, how she's diplomatic, what is going on in social work and social areas of our world. And the Sun, 4 degrees off of Venus, is also in that same energy. So the sun represents our ego and our sense of self. And in the sign of Libra, of course, balance and diplomacy and marriage, partnership, all the things I just said. So Venus and the sun are influencing each other. So the sun is looking to Venus for desires and what they need, what our egos need to feel comfortable and to feel embraced and loved and at ease and at peace. And then Venus is looking to the sun to shine a light on that type of energy so that we can feel at ease with our identity and know that we are balanced within our egos, within our self here in the material plane on earth. And because it is Libra, this energy is ruled by Venus, but it is not the earthy energy of Taurus, it is air. So we're not really grounded with the Sun, Venus, trine to Pluto, trine, well, actually not trine, Sun, Venus, trine to Saturn, and then also trine to Mars. So Mars is wanting to take action in multiple ways. It's all multiples, remember. One of our lessons from past podcasts is we have duality with Gemini, multiples in the sense of like triangles, usually with Libra. And then your Aquarius is the multiples, many more, more than few. And few here is defined as 3. So Saturn is the only grounding energy in all of these planets that are triangulating and in trine. And so Saturn usually sets in roots. And of course, Saturn is about to go direct this month. Let's just look real quick at what day that is. I think it's coming up within about a week. Saturn in 2 weeks. It's around the 22nd. So we have both Juno, the asteroid of marriage and partnership, or being in a marriage situation, and Saturn, the rooted overseer of all structures, they're both going direct pretty much on the same day, right around the 22nd. I say around because I'm looking at my table that doesn't give an exact time. It's, oh, and I do that. It's just a table, but the day itself actually does. So I can look that up and tell you. And I always do this. I give you the general, and then I end up talking myself into a corner and needing to give you the specifics. So it goes, Saturn goes direct at 9:07 p.m. Pacific, 12:07 a.m. Eastern on the 23rd. So it's overnight, 22nd to the 23rd of October. I see this as a tremendous energy around connecting in partnerships. So I think I said this on the last podcast, but because Juno is a connection to marriage, whatever we were doing coming together in partnership come the end of July, beginning of August, when Juno went retrograde, it's like that energy was pulled back. Maybe you were thinking about marriage, maybe you were getting ready for an engagement or whatever type partnership situation was going on the end of July, beginning of August. It kind of pulled its energy back. And then of course Saturn, which is structure, also was retrograde at that time, and now both of them going direct on the same day. Structure, marriage is a very big structure, so we have the two going direct on the same day. So I foresee definitely a possibility that there is something coming in close to that date, if not exactly on that date, the 22nd or the 23rd. Ironically, I'm doing an astrology, like a whole day of astrology for a bridal shower on the 22nd of October. So it's coming into my world in that very exact way, which is really kind of a great little synchronicity. But yeah, the 22nd, that energy is coming in. And so right now, looking at this energy in the sky today, as the sun and Venus are joined up in Libra, that energy of wanting to connect or having some kind of major shift around the idea of love, the idea of marriage, the idea of partnership, including in business, is coming in. And then Saturn in Aquarius is entrepreneurship. So again, if you were thinking about being in a business with someone and then it kind of pulled back its energy towards the beginning of August, that energy will come back around after the 22nd, 23rd. It can even be just before it, it can be after it, but it's going to be coming back again with this grand trine, that is really triggered, and Mars is the driving engine of our career anyway, and Saturn is the career and life purpose. So we have desire, we have attention placed on our desires in the balance of Libra, and then cooperating with the structure of Saturn and creating some kind of physicality of it or organization of it. And then Mars saying, yes, let's go forward with it. But all of the entities in this grand trine are, again, multiple based, which means that there are going to be many business ideas popping, many opportunities for partnership. And so it really is about, what do we decide? Which one do we take? How do we know which one's the best? And I can tell you two things are going to happen. One kind of next year, but the first one is this year, and that is Mars goes retrograde in Gemini. So Mars, again, the action taken, how we go about making things happen. Mars goes retrograde actually really soon, because it's here at the end of this month on the 30th. So let's just go back, doing our little trick of seeing general and then getting more specific. It's like the 30th, I think. Yeah, Mars goes retrograde 9:26 a.m. on the 30th, and that's Eastern, 6:26 a.m. Pacific. And what does that mean? So Mars, again, we go forward. Mars is the energy of forward momentum. Going retrograde means we are going to pull back our energy and review, because if we've learned anything from our Mercury retrograde, which, by the way, I made the intention it would be a good trip. I was on literally a dozen different flights during the 2 weeks I was gone. Not anything went wrong with the exception of a hurricane. And I just delayed that flight knowing it was coming, called in, put it off a day, never any problems. So that I would recommend is a really good way of dealing with the Mercury retrograde, is just intend that things will go well and with ease, and don't allow those energies to influence you. If you can just focus on the ease. Okay, Mars retrograde does answer to Mercury, but now Mercury's direct, and Mercury's in Virgo today. By the end of October, Mercury will be in Libra, and actually, I believe maybe even beyond it. Let's just see how fast Mercury's moving. Yeah, Mercury goes into Scorpio the same day that Mars retrogrades. So let's just see what time that is, or within 24 hours. So 3:22 p.m. on the 29th. And that's Eastern, 12:22 Pacific on the 29th. So within a day, Mercury goes into Scorpio, and then Mars answering to Mercury in Gemini, Mercury, Mars being in Gemini, will answer to Scorpio. So I find this really a fascinating energy, because they do not get along per se. Scorpio is, if you are just learning astrology, the way you can figure out this aspect is, the sign opposite of Gemini is Sagittarius, and 1 over from that is Scorpio. So opposite is 180, minus 30 degrees is 150. That makes it an inconjunct or quincunx energy. I don't particularly like the quincunx name, so I say inconjunct, but they're both accurate. And that just means that it's a difficult degree, it's a difficult aspect, and they don't necessarily cooperate. You're going to have a bit of a struggle, because Gemini energy is air, and Mars is action. Retrograde is going to be withdrawing action and really reviewing the behavior or actions taken verbally. So this is where we recognize that our words can wound, and the lack of communication can wound as well. Scorpio is very deep feeling and will get wounded by that action and that behavior. So having Mercury in Scorpio means that there's going to be, unfortunately, a much deeper repercussion from that Mars retrograde, because it will affect deep commitments to partners and relationships. It can be legalities. And I would say, off the top of my head, as kind of a great example of energy for Gemini, is Trump, because he has so much of the Gemini energy, and really quintessentially the Gemini duplicity. And so Mars in Gemini retrograde means that those of us who have those planets in Gemini, and I have a node, I have North Node 28 Gemini. So Definitely Mars is going to be affecting that because it gets pretty close to my natal north node when it does retrograde. I'm curious. I just want to know um, what degree it's at. It's at 25 degrees, and my node is at 28. So within 3 degrees of that node, yay, yay me. So it is going to be a pretty significant retrograde. And then its ruling planet going into Scorpio, the Gemini ruler, means that we're going to have to deal with legal issues. We're going to have to deal with things that were hidden, mysteries of sexuality, probably more than one sex partner or more than one situation of a love interest at that time. And I would say Mars, planet of sex drive, but also emergencies, action being taken. It is the ruler of Aries. And remember, we also have Jupiter in Aries. Let's say, I think Jupiter is back in Pisces by then, or right really close to going into Pisces. Yeah, so of course I'm talking, this is like so far in advance, but because of this grand trine, Mars, Venus, Sun, and Saturn, it's making me look forward to when all these shifts occur. And then Jupiter goes into Pisces on the 29th as well. So within one day, we have Jupiter change signs, Mercury change signs, and Mars goes retrograde. So it will be an enormous shift of energy then, which, by the way, we are also feeling this weekend because, like I said, Pluto goes direct this weekend. We'll get to that. And so we have this grand trine energy that's really drawing our attention to what we're saying. I would say now specifically, pay attention to the energies of where your attention is. I know mine personally is in a situation with more than one person, in two different fronts. I have 3 people here and then 3 people here, and I am interested to know how those dynamics will play out over the course of this. In one of the situations, there is a Gemini woman, and so it's going to be interesting to see what that does. But anyway, pay attention to your Gemini house, pay attention to your Aquarius house, and pay attention to your Libra house because they are all going to be triggered. They are right now because this week we have that grand trine, which means, in my humble opinion, that we are going to have events that are significant, and they're going to relate to our career, to how we take action, to other people and cooperation, which could be with a partner in business, very strong energy of a business partner, but also a romantic situation as well, and marriage partnership. Okay, and then the other grand trine that I'm seeing is Mercury, Pluto, Uranus, North Node. So that is, again, because we have Mars and Gemini, it's a really interesting cooperation. Actually, at this point, Mercury squares Mars within 4 degrees today. And so Mercury and Mars are not seeing eye to eye. They mean that one person may be expressing the Mercury energy, the analysis, thoughtfulness, it's still in Virgo. And so it's very grounded energy. It's very practical energy. It's like, okay, I want to communicate. Let's wrap up the story around this communication. And now, because Mercury is direct, the communication has been retrograde. We have pulled back our energy, but now Mercury is direct at the end degrees of Virgo. We want to cross our T's, dot our I's, make sure that the information is imparted to everyone accurately. And then Mars, right there at end degrees of Gemini, is saying, I want to take action, but I have 2 pathways to take action. And I want to split the energy of Mercury into 2 different ideas, where Mercury in Virgo is saying, no, I can't do 2 ideas of splitting. But if you talk to Mercury about making 2 lists or making practical effort in 2 different directions, Virgo can get on board with that. So that might be the way to really approach how that plays out in your world, because it is a square. It means that there is friction that is designed to help us with growth. I want to tell you, I had a really interesting saying that I just ran across like a couple hours ago, so I'm not sure if I can remember what it is, but and it does pertain because it is Gemini and Mercury in Virgo, which is the teacher and the student. So it's a learning scenario. But what they said was the difference between education or college or school and life is that we have lessons and then get a test for school, but in life we get a test and then learn lessons from it. And I thought that was a really interesting way to look at it and really truthful, actually. And so, yeah, it's really interesting that we do lessons and get a test in education, but then we reverse it in life. And I suppose, day to day life, while you're in school, you also have a test and then get lessons. So, anyway, Mercury, Pluto, North Node, and Uranus. What does that mean? Again, it's a grand trine, so there is a tremendous amount of apparent cooperative energy, but the trines can very much, and I think I cut myself off with that on the Mercury, Pluto, Mars trine, grand trine, is that it will bring out a very emotional scenario. It is one that you may not have anticipated, you may not have wanted, and will bring out deep emotions for the scenario. I definitely had that. And I think this week it was exacerbated by Pluto slowing down to station to go direct. And so we'll talk about that in a minute. But the Mercury, Pluto, North Node, Uranus energy. So that is an Earth grand trine right now. And Earth wants to address things in the material world. So Mercury in Virgo, like I said, is very much about the technical attention to details and to how things are kind of by rules. Let's face it, Virgos can be nitpicky. That gives you an idea of the pragmatism and probably nitpickiness that Virgo can have. And then Pluto at n degrees of Capricorn, also very dogmatic about rules and regulations and structure. So that really is a huge part of what this grand trine is about, is the structure of career with Pluto in Capricorn, and or the patriarchy, as we are seeing with Iran and the Iran Persian young ladies who are getting rid of their head coverings and basically taking lots of photos from behind, flipping off the religious spiritual leader in that country. I find it an interesting expression of this grand trine. And then having the last corner of the triangle followed through with by Uranus retrograde and North Node. So they're within 5 degrees of each other, and they are acting in an awareness of a new energy around money. I find it interesting that, retail and money and the markets are really back and forth a lot this summer and going into this fall. And so it's definitely a part of it. Mercury having been retrograde, now direct, what we think about in the tangible, practical sense with our money, with what we're learning about new ways of handling money and new ways of integrating into markets. And, the Ukraine crisis and what I call Putin's war. That is all, in my opinion, very strongly linked to Uranus in this chart. And so we're seeing, they're putting holes in the pipeline that goes from Russia to other countries, and basically it's being sabotaged. I mean, I don't know who's doing it. That's part of the material gain from that country. And definitely we see materiality, retail, markets, all, like I said, everything money related. And then also the food that we're going to be eating, and especially in Europe over the winter, where's the food coming from? And then how is it being grown? What kind of chemicals are in food right now? Yeah, I mean, we are putting our attention on all these things that are Taurian or, Taurus ruled. So also look in your earth sign houses in your chart to see how that might be affecting you. Again, it's Virgo, Capricorn, and Taurus. And so it's materiality, desire around money, around food, changing your diet. I had been eating very poorly on the road because I was around the very standard American diet most of the time throughout the Midwest. In case you're wondering and maybe don't know, and I might not have said, I had a friend tap me to be a tour manager for Father Ray Kelly, who was an Irish singing priest. He sang on YouTube, or it ended up on YouTube. He didn't even put it out there, but it now has like 87 million hits. And he does touring throughout the country and around in Europe as well. He's been on Britain's Got Talent. He's been on Irish Dancing with the Stars, and he was on a tour across the country this last few weeks, and I was the tour manager for that. So I flew all across from Burns, Oregon to Mystic, Connecticut seaport and took care of that tour for a couple of weeks, and it was a really great time with Father Ray. Anyway, you can look him up on YouTube. He is all over the internet if you want to look him up. And I'm going to be posting more about that tour. It was really lovely, met so many great people, and had a really fabulous time. But anyway, so career and food and money, and Virgo is education and learning and service. And so those are the areas that are being affected with that second grand trine. So it can mean that maybe something's coming up that you didn't expect, which is Uranus North Node. It is life-changing. It is a destiny energy coming in, and it's practical expression of something. Pluto and Capricorn late degrees, people keep forgetting that that is an energy where we are supposed to recognize that we are not responsible for everybody else. We are responsible for our own stuff. I was just listening to Abraham today, right before I started the podcast. And Abraham was basically, Abraham Hicks channeled energy about the law of attraction. She was talking about it, everything is our personal responsibility in our personal world. And one of the things she was saying is, when is it going to be somebody else's responsibility? And she's like, it never is. It's always going to be your own, because you vibrated in the situations that you are experiencing. And quite honestly, if you really start to look at that concept that you are the point of attraction for everything in your world, then it gives you a sense of power. You own that power, and you are able to, once you own it, you can make the change. You can shift how you look at it. You can shift what you do about it. And personally, since I've really been focusing on doing that the last couple of months, it's really gotten rid of a lot of depression, where I feel powerless, where I feel like I am not the person in charge of my own life. So if you want to be more confident, you want to be more in charge of your own life, start looking at how you are the center focal point in the moment of now for everything that happens to you. You bring it to you. It's a magnetized energy where you attract it in. That is the law of attraction. What you put out, you get back. It is also connected to my Buddhist practice of cause and effect. So you create a cause, you get an effect, but you can change it when you recognize that you're doing it, and then you can shift what you do the next time. So anyway, we won't get off on a tangent on that too much, but
Hey, this is Shelley. I wanted to give you a heads up that there are a lot of new art prints at ShelleyOverton.com. So go over there and check them out. ShelleyOverton.com. Thanks.
Shimmy, shimmy, yeah, shimmy, aim, shimmy, yeah. Give me the mic so I can take it away. Up on a natural charge, bon voyage. Yeah, from the home of the Dodger Brooklyn squad. Wu-Tang killer bees on the swarm. Rain on your dollar ass disco dome. You didn't even touch my skill. Gotta have one killer bee and he ain't gonna kill him. Jot that down, pass it all around. Lyrics get out quick, cement to the ground. Any MC in any 52 states, I get psycho killer. Norman Bates, I produce a slam. I was like, damn, jump on stage.
getting on with our astrology. Let's see what else I can tell you. Hey, the moon is in Pisces, and that means that I had to drink some tea to just find the energy to do the podcast, because wow, when the moon goes into Pisces, it's right on my Saturn too, so restriction, but it makes you drowsy. It makes you want to sleep, especially accented. We had some clouds roll in for a brief period of time, and my daughter and I were hanging out, and we both just wanted to go to sleep. We were just like, and my daughter was over here today too, and we kind of had a little bit of that feeling when the moon went into Pisces. So anyway, for the next 2.5 days, and you'll see this, well, you probably won't see this until tomorrow. So for the next day and a half, moon is going to be in Pisces. So be more aware of your emotional connectedness to all that is. Spirit is trying to talk to you. They talk to you through intuition, through synchronicities with different things coming into your life, like signs, butterflies, dragonflies, frogs, cats. I've had roaches come into my life. Energy, the roach energy is trying to point out to me. And so you can look at it like you are tenacious, you will last, or things are changing, which I think a lot of spirit, animal, and energy, spirit energy, the signs are saying that you're changing. Butterflies, dragonflies, snakes, very transient energy, and really indicate that there's a change on the way, as is a hurricane, because the winds of change are absolutely one of my signs. And when you have winds that cover the full state, and the last time a hurricane came through, I'm like, I can't do these high number hurricanes anymore. And I really don't want to be in the state anything close to a Cat 5 hurricane. And lo and behold, it literally hit on the very last day of my trip out of town. I had to come home a day later because my return trip was the day it hit. And so I came home the day after. And quite honestly, Orlando has an enormous amount of water that has flooded it. I have definitely been not able to get to where I was going. I had a final concert for Father Ray in South Orlando, and I was half an hour late trying to navigate different roads that had enormous puddles and redirected large quantities of traffic. So if you can donate to the Red Cross or anyone else in Florida for this, I mean, it was just so horrible in South Florida near the Gulf Coast. My ex is really lucky to even have a house, no electricity, and just so much going on down there. Even my daughter had no electricity here in town. So it was an incredible, incredible event. And honestly, these things seem to happen more and more, but and there's so many more who are without lives now for the material goods in their world. So do keep them in your thoughts and prayers, and if you can, send some monetary compensation towards South Florida. Okay, what else? Okay, so Pluto, we're going to kind of skip ahead. Moon will go into Aries. Moon in Aries happens. Oh, yes. Moon in Aries happens Saturday the 8th at 11:57 a.m., 8:57 a.m. Pacific. And let's see, I think it's a full moon, which is right after, is it right after that? No, it's the next day. So there's a full moon in Aries the next day at 4:55 p.m. Eastern, 1:55 p.m. Pacific. But right after the moon goes into Aries, there's an exact conjunction to Jupiter, 3:37 p.m. and 12:37 p.m. Pacific. And then in the evening at 5:56 p.m. to 2:56 p.m. Pacific, Pluto goes direct. And so we've got Aries and we have Pluto making significant events on Saturday with a full moon in Aries on Sunday. So Pluto, well, I don't even know where to begin with this because it's probably going to take a good chunk of what this podcast is going to be. So Pluto is the energy of major life change, and being in Capricorn energy, which is Saturn ruled, it is about structure. It is about career, the patriarchy, systems, government, all of the usual suspects. And it is about value because Pluto rules how other people value us. So it is a dynamic of us to them. And so we're going to be seeing that. I'm going to take this off because I'm getting really hot. Anyway, okay, there we go. And I know it's the same shirt I wore last podcast, but it's been 3 weeks. So I'm sorry. But anyway, yeah, Pluto, it rules earthquakes. It rules major shifts in government, in the dynamic of the patriarchy, in leadership, in how we think about our belief systems, in churches, any organization. Because it's Capricorn, Capricorn does rule the systems of government and the systems of the church. So know that may be a news story coming out about something along those lines. This is the last retrograde before Pluto goes into Aquarius. So from now until March 23rd, 23, we are going to be heading straight to the end of Pluto in Capricorn and then initiate that energy in Aquarius. We are wrapping up a story which we'll visit 2 more times before Pluto fully moves into Aquarius over next summer and the summer after 2024. But this is the final push in Capricorn before the new energy introduces itself literally. We are feeling it anyway because Pluto is affecting the masses. That's what it does. We are in that Pluto return for America, which means we are also in a type of major shift for England, as we saw with the Queen's passing. I found it really interesting because I've been looking at when the Queen might pass for a few years, and finally I just said, you know what, I'm probably not going to nail that one. And I recognize that because her genetics just was so long, and I'm like, you know what, it's probably not even a good thing to try and predict when she would pass. But the fact that she passed under Pluto coming in a month ago, almost to the, it is to the day, it goes direct a month to the day after she passed, September 8th. So October 8th, Pluto goes direct, and it is leaders leaving. Major leadership systems are shifting. How we look at men in power is changing. That's seen, like I said earlier, by Iran. So anyway, Pluto changing direction is going to affect us in our Capricorn houses, in our careers, in the systems of structure that we deal with day to day. And it's going to be a very big shift. We're talking, like I said, earthquakes. It can affect buildings coming down, structures coming down, leadership, governments coming down. All of these things in the next few months are fair game for the power of this energy, on top of the fact that there is that grand trine with Uranus North Node. Pluto, Uranus, they are at the very last degree of orb wide side of a trine. So Pluto at 26, Uranus at 18. It's an 8-degree orb. So they are at the very last degree of that trine energy. And so it's going to be significant. It can also mean giant structures shifting when this planet changes direction. So that is really the hallmark of Pluto retrograde. I've been feeling and have for years now. I would say 3 years at least. I've felt it in my bones. Capricorn rules the skeletal structure. It rules bones. So I feel the shift every time it goes retrograde, every time it goes direct. My hips hurt, or my knees hurt, or my skeleton hurts, or my back hurts, or my teeth. Something in my body always feels this. And this time it's my lower back and my hips. And I am actually not feeling too bad today. So, you know, I usually pick up on it a few days in advance. I know that when it goes direct, or when it finishes the movement of retrograde, it kind of eases up on my body. So I'm very grateful for that. Anyway, look for those kind of things to affect you. Then we've got that energy of Moon going into Aries, joining up with Jupiter. So Jupiter is retrograde, and that means that the Moon is moving forward. This is new energy, new home. Jupiter is transformation, transformative. Jupiter was just going into Aries not long ago. And then, of course, it retrograded. Let's just see when Jupiter got to Aries. I think it was like May, if I'm not mistaken. It was May. Hey, I called it. What do you know? A little bit of memory once in a while. 11th of May. And so it will go again into Aries at the end of the year. I want to say it's like the last week of December. Yeah, the last week of December, the 21st of December, it goes back into Aries once it's direct again. Okay, so Moon, home, hearth, mother, feeling comfortable, feeling you're in your own power around the home that you want to nurture. There is an ending energy of Moon in late degrees Pisces. End degrees of Pisces, as I've been really talking about the last few podcasts, it's the end of a cycle. So in tarot, the Wheel of Fortune is also one. Let me just say, the Wheel of Fortune is, you know, the process. That's what this is. The Moon is at end degrees of Pisces, hitting Neptune, and then going to Jupiter. Jupiter is retrograde now, so the Moon is going, okay, I want the new energy in Aries. but then Jupiter is saying, okay, I see what you're saying and I recognize it. So it's kind of like, the floor recognizes the senator from Aries. And so what happens is Jupiter says, I am the entity of change and transformation and spiritual seeking. And I want to know what it is that you want to do in your Aries time moon. Moon is an indicator of where we can be going. And it also is a culminator and it manifests things. So when it's a trigger in horary astrology, which is the astrology of answering a question with the chart of when the question is asked. So definitely the moon can be an indicator of things happening. And when it goes into Aries, it initiates new, childlike, fresh, clean, excited energy. It's a passion, it's sexual energy, it's emergencies, it is action because it answers to Mars. And then Jupiter transforms, and then Moon and Jupiter together at early degrees. So think about it, 2 degrees Jupiter is within a degree and a half, a degree, 2 degrees, well, 222 on this particular chart. 2 degrees is all it has gone in the chart at this point. I mean, those are the degrees that it covers in Aries. And so it's extremely early in the sign of Aries, which means it is very strong initiating energy. But because it's retrograde, it has pulled its energy back. And now we have to really think about what that means spiritually for the home life, the transformation of the home. Those of you who are thinking of changing homes, who are thinking of buying a new home, especially Aries is sales. Are you going to sell a home? It is, so Aries is sales, and then the opposite, Libra, would be buying, but just focused on the Jupiter. Jupiter is real estate. So it may mean that you're thinking of selling a home or moving houses. And then Moon, of course, because it rules the home and family, there is some kind of energy coming in this weekend around that very specific theme. Then the moon moves on and Jupiter continues on back until the end of the month when he goes into Pisces on the 29th, 30th timeline. Okay, and then the moon over the course of the next day and a half also hits Chiron, which is the wounding. And so I would say moon on Neptune, because we even just heard Thailand had a preschool or some type of daycare. Someone killed 30 people there, including many children, I think 20 children. So insidious, insidious. The moon going over Neptune is going to be that emotionalism around the event. Then it hits Aries, which is the assertion of another similar kind of violent event potentially. And then Jupiter wants to transform. So what the moon and Jupiter are doing together is trying to bring awareness to the energy of masculine assertiveness and aggression. And so whatever may happen that's violent at that time over the weekend, that's what those two are trying to do. They're trying to get an awareness of how everyone is part of the home and the family. We are all family. And it is expressed through that transformational energy, initiating energy of early degrees Aries, the masculine energy of Aries, and also the transformative spiritual energy of Jupiter. So, I don't like to predict these ugly events, but definitely having the moon hit Neptune, which is an ending, go to the end degrees of Pisces, more endings, more death on some level for whatever reason, for the purpose, and then hitting Jupiter immediately upon going into the new cycle of Aries. And then right after Jupiter hits Chiron, which is the wounding, that is the theme of the weekend. So it's going to be a bit of a struggle. Then we still have Mercury at end degrees Virgo, which while I was gone, I may have said this during my podcast that I posted then, but Mercury in degrees Virgo is accidents. And we will see more of those during this opposition of the moon in Pisces to late degree Mercury in Virgo. So just be aware. And Mercury can be electrical, it can be material because it's in Virgo, it can be associated with education or schooling systems, the military, which is also covered, medical energy, doctors, nurses, EMTs, especially when the moon goes into Aries from Pisces. It's kind of like a transformative going from maybe the help and medical side of things where people are sick and not feeling well, over into a more aggressive, like the emergency rooms will probably, especially on a full moon, will go from the people who are sick with the moon in Pisces into the energy of the emergency where people had an accident and were wounded. So that's that kind of transition from Pisces to Aries, opposite Mercury and Virgo. And then we have the moon in Taurus in the early part of next week. Moon moves into Taurus at 5:04 p.m. Monday. And then actually Mercury enters Libra at 7:51 p.m. Monday as well. So we have the energy of the moon initiating into that Venus ruled sign of Taurus, followed by the energy of Mercury initiating into the Venus ruled air sign of Libra. They do not join up there because the moon will join Mercury in a square just before it transitions into that by sign. So having the moon in Taurus, like I said, it's going to be material, and it's also going to be connecting to the North Node Uranus energy. Again, all the same suspects. I mean, I'm just giving generalizations. I'm not doing a specific reading this week. I probably will do horoscopes next week for the remainder of October, and it'll probably slop over into November horoscopes. But this week, I just had so much other stuff to talk about, and I know I'm talking fast, but there's so much of it. So moon hitting North Node Uranus is going to be the unexpected, is going to be money systems, is going to be markets, retail. I would say it's positive retail. I think Amazon Day is coming up also when the moon hits Taurus. Who knows if they know astrology, but if they do, that's very timely. And then the moon will be in Gemini for the latter half of this coming week, and then it hits Mars. So moon, Mars, just as it's getting ready to go retrograde. So there's going to be an additional energy focused on the duality of the Mars nature and what we are saying, what our words mean, communications, journalism. Writers are under this area. Elementary schools are under this. My daughter has Jupiter in her house of career, and she's an elementary school teacher being trained anyway. So it is very much the childlike energy, and also very social. So social media, really strong energy with the moon in Gemini coming up in the latter half of the week. It is respiratory. It is the lungs. Moon rules the chest and the mammaries, and it's also the lungs for Gemini. So we will see what's coming up in the latter part of next week with that moon and Mars connection. Definitely Trump's going to be in the news when moon hits Mars and hits his sun, of course. So yeah, he's continually there because he is a self-promoter extraordinaire, and Mars and Gemini, great self-promotion energy. Just know that when it goes retrograde, we're going to have to walk back our words. And so be very careful about what you say, because it's probably going to come back and swat you when Mars goes retrograde. That is your podcast for the week. Thank you for sticking with me. I'm trying to add a little more of my own personality into this. So I hope you don't mind me talking a little more about my personal world. But I just find that when the people I follow talk about more of their personal stuff, it engages me more with them. And so I hope that it does for you. Let me know if that's the case. If it's not, I suppose you can tell me as well. You don't have to be mean about it though. So anyway, please just be kind to one another and go that extra step to try and be that nice person. Okay, take care until next week, and we'll see you later. Bye. Whoa. I'm always correcting people on the difference between candlestick and candlestick holder, because the item that holds the candlestick is the candlestick holder, but everyone calls it a candlestick. I just saw it this afternoon, so it's at the top of my mind.
To purchase my ebook, Learn Astrology, you can find it at angeliczodiac.com. Hi, this is Shelley. Thank you for joining us this week. To contact me for a private reading, go to angeliczodiac.com under the Readings tab. Background music was provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Be sure to check back next week and subscribe through iTunes at AstroEnergy Astrology Show.